Superhero movies taught us that extraordinary abilities come from life-altering moments. But what if real life worked the same way?
So Moen has got an electrical cable in his mouth, and what we're showing here is that is conducting through his body and is lighting this. So effectively, he is a live wire.
A man wakes from a coma fluent in a language he barely knew. Another survives an electric shock and suddenly becomes a human magnetor. Science struggles to explain these unbelievable transformations, but they're real. Could hidden superpowers be waiting to awaken in us all? Let's explore 20 people who gained real superpowers after an event. Number 20. Tony Cicoria. A brilliant flash cuts through the sky. The air crackles. In an instant, Dr. Tony Cicoria's life changes forever. It's 1994, and the New York surgeon is on a payphone at a lakeside park, chatting with his mother. Then, boom! A lightning bolt rips through the line, travels into his head, and hurls him backward.
All of a sudden, the building that I was standing next to and on the payphone gets struck by lightning.
His heart stops. His body smokes on the ground. A bystander, a nurse, rushes to his aid, reviving him with CPR. He survives. But when he wakes up, something inside him is different. Something extraordinary. Before the accident, Cicoria had no real interest in music. He was a busy doctor with no musical background. But weeks after the lightning strike, he developed an overwhelming desire to listen to and play the piano.
Several weeks later, that I started to have this incredible desire to hear piano music.
He began hearing original compositions in his head, as if music had been implanted into his brain. The melodies wouldn't stop, and he felt compelled to bring them to life. Despite having no prior training, Cicoria taught himself how to play and quickly mastered complex classical compositions. He became obsessed with playing and composing, eventually performing his own pieces in concerts. Neurologists who studied his case believe the lightning strike rewired his brain, unlocking hidden cognitive abilities linked to musical creativity. Cicoria's case is one of the most famous examples of acquired savant syndrome, where a traumatic event suddenly unlocks extraordinary abilities. He often describes his experience as a gift from the lightning, as if the strike had awakened something buried deep within him. Number 19. Franco Magnani. A burning fever raged through Franco Magnani's body, leaving him on the edge of consciousness. Upon recovery, he now faces a new reality, one that has made his mind become a living time capsule. Magnani was an ordinary man living in California when a life-altering illness struck. A severe fever caused neurological damage, but when he recovered, he realized something astonishing. His childhood memories had become unbelievably vivid. He could recall every street, building, and detail of his small Italian hometown, Pontito, with complete precision. And even more remarkably, he could paint them in extraordinary detail, despite not having visited the town for over 30 years. His paintings are so eerily accurate that when researchers compared them to real photographs of Pontito, the resemblance was uncanny. Every shadow, brick, and rooftop was perfectly placed, as though his mind had preserved the town like a high-definition camera. Yet, Magnani had no formal training as an artist before his illness. Neurologists studying his case believe he may have developed hyperthymesia, a rare ability where a person remembers life events with extreme clarity. Others speculate his fever may have unlocked a dormant ability in his brain, allowing him to relive moments from the past as if they were happening in real time. Number 18. Jason Padgett.
This morning we're talking about the power of the human mind and how to unleash it. You're about to meet a man who many of us can relate to. He struggled in school, he wasn't particularly fond of it, but then comes the part most of us cannot relate to. One day, he became a math genius.
Picture this. It's a crisp September night in 2002, Tacoma, Washington. Jason Padgett, a 31-year-old furniture salesman with a mullet and a laid-back vibe, steps out of a karaoke bar, laughing with friends. He's got no clue that in the next 5 minutes, his entire world, his mind, is about to shatter. 2 unknown men blindsided him in the parking lot, and without warning, they pounced. A fist slams into Jason's skull, then another. He crumples to the ground in the pool of his blood as his attackers vanish into the night. He was left for dead, concussed, and broken.
And I didn't see anything coming. I just heard more than felt this thud in the back of my head, and I saw a bright flash of light. The next thing I knew, I was on the ground.
But here's where it gets wild. That brutal beating didn't just take something from Jason, it gave him something no one saw coming. In the weeks that followed, Padgett started noticing something strange. The world around him didn't look the same anymore. He began seeing geometric patterns in everything, the way water spiraled down a drain, the way light reflected off objects, even in ordinary movement. At first, he thought it was just a lingering side effect of the trauma, but soon he realized these patterns weren't random. They were fractals, complex geometric shapes that repeat at different scales. His new perception allowed him to visualize and hand-draw complex mathematical patterns with stunning accuracy, despite having no formal training in advanced mathematics. Simple tasks like pouring a drink or looking at the sky became overwhelming because his brain automatically broke everything down into its most elaborate mathematical components. He starts sketching intricate diagrams by hand, stuff so precise it stuns mathematicians. Neurologists call it acquired savant syndrome, a 1 in a million rewiring of his brain. Scans show his visual cortex lit up like a supernova. Padgett's transformation changed his life. He dedicated himself to understanding the patterns he saw, eventually teaching himself advanced mathematics and becoming a respected figure in the field. His ability to see fractals in everyday life has fascinated both scientists and mathematicians. Today, he shares his experience in lectures and interviews, even writing a book titled Struck by Genius, detailing his incredible journey from a beaten-down salesman to a real-life math genius. Number 17. Eadweard Muybridge. It's 1860, and a dusty road in Texas stretches endlessly under a blistering sun. Eadweard Muybridge, a 30-year-old photographer with a sharp beard and sharper ambition, grips the reins of a stagecoach barreling through his journey. He's got no idea that fate was about to throw him a curveball, literally. He was best known for pioneering motion photography. But before his groundbreaking work, his life took a drastic turn. While traveling in Texas, he suffered a traumatic brain injury in a violent stagecoach accident. He was thrown from the vehicle, hitting his head so hard that he lost consciousness for days. The injury permanently altered his personality and perception of time. Afterward, he began experiencing unusual cognitive changes. He developed an obsession with movement and time, seeing reality in fragmented sequences rather than smooth motion. It was as if his mind could break down motion into individual frames, like a film reel. This newfound perception led him to pioneer motion photography. In 1872, he was hired by railroad tycoon Leland Stanford to settle a bet, whether a horse's hooves ever left the ground entirely during a gallop. Muybridge devised a system of multiple cameras with tripwires, capturing a horse in motion for the first time in history. His experiments laid the foundation for modern filmmaking. Though his injury caused erratic behavior, some believe it made him emotionally unstable, it also unlocked a unique way of seeing the world. Without his accident, Muybridge may never have revolutionized photography. Number 16. Nikolai Kryaglyachenko. One seemingly ordinary day, Nikolai Kryaglyachenko, a 12-year-old from Russia, was walking home from school when he accidentally leaned against a faulty power pole. A powerful electric shock surged through his body, knocking him unconscious. Witnesses feared the worst, but Nikolai survived the ordeal, only to discover that something strange had happened to him. After the accident, Nikolai noticed an odd phenomenon. Metal objects like spoons, coins, and plates started sticking to his body as if he had become a living magnet. At first, he thought it was a trick of static electricity, but as he experimented, he realized he could control it. He demonstrated his strange ability to classmates, effortlessly holding metal utensils against his skin without any adhesive or force. This unusual transformation has been compared to cases of so-called magnetic people, individuals who claim their bodies can attract metal objects. While some scientists attribute this to sticky skin or body heat, Nikolai's case stood out because it happened immediately after the electrical accident, suggesting a potential neurological or bioelectric change. Despite skepticism from experts, Nikolai continued to develop his powers, even claiming he could influence small metal objects from a distance. While there's no scientific explanation for how electricity could turn a person into a magnet, his story remains one of the most intriguing cases of accidental superpowers. Number 15. Khan's Superhands Trichan. For most people, getting splashed with boiling oil would result in instant excruciating pain and severe burns. But for Khan Trichan, a street food vendor in Thailand, something extraordinary happened. One day, while frying chicken, he accidentally dipped his hand into a vat of hot, bubbling oil. Instead of screaming in pain, he simply pulled his hand out, completely unharmed. At first, Khan thought it was just luck, but as he continued working, he realized he could submerge his hands in boiling oil repeatedly without injury. His unique ability soon made him famous, and curious scientists began investigating his case. Surprisingly, his skin showed no burns or scarring, despite prolonged exposure to temperatures over 250 degrees Celsius. Experts have theorized that Khan might have an extremely high pain tolerance, or that his skin has an unusual resistance to heat. Some suggest his hands might have thicker skin layers or a unique sweat gland function that creates a protective barrier. However, no concrete scientific explanation fully explains his ability. Khan has since used his powers to amaze people, performing stunts by scooping fried chicken out of boiling oil with his bare hands. While many are fascinated by his gift, some remain skeptical, wondering if it's a trick or an unknown biological anomaly. Number 14. John Sarkin. One moment, John Sarkin was a chiropractor. The next, he was an unstoppable force of creativity. It all started with a simple chiropractic adjustment, a routine procedure that triggered a catastrophic chain reaction in his brain. He soon began experiencing ringing in his ears, dizziness, and vision problems, symptoms that led doctors to uncover something alarming: a stroke caused by a brain hemorrhage. When Sarkin emerged from life-saving surgery, his world had changed forever. His speech was slurred and his balance was off. But the most shocking transformation was his mind. He was suddenly compelled to create art, obsessively. Before the stroke, he had no real passion for painting, but now, his hands seemed to move on their own, filling canvases with surreal, intricate images. He painted for hours on end, unable to stop. Neurologists believe the stroke altered his brain's frontal lobe, the area responsible for creativity. His damaged brain seemed to have rewired itself, unlocking a hidden artistic ability. This phenomenon, known as acquired savant syndrome, has been observed in a handful of people who develop extraordinary skills after brain trauma. Sarkin's work has been exhibited in galleries worldwide, and he continues to paint obsessively, describing the process as something he can't turn off. Number 13. Derek Amato. At a rowdy Colorado pool party in 2006, Derek Amato was just having fun with friends when he decided to dive into a shallow pool. The impact was immediate. He hit his head hard and suffered a serious concussion, losing 35% of his hearing and dealing with chronic memory issues. But what he lost in one part of his brain, he gained in another. Not long after the accident, Amato sat down at a friend's piano and something incredible happened. His fingers moved effortlessly across the keys, playing complex melodies he had never learned. Before the injury, he barely knew how to play, but now he could compose music at a professional level. His brain had somehow unlocked a hidden ability he never knew he had. Doctors believe that Amato's accident reorganized his brain. This rare condition occurs when brain trauma rewires neural pathways, granting extraordinary abilities in areas like math, art, or music. Scans of Amato's brain showed unusual activity in the temporal and frontal lobes, areas linked to musical ability. Now, Amato is a full-time musician, composing and performing elaborate piano pieces. His story baffles scientists and challenges what we know about the brain. Could we all have hidden talents, waiting for the right spark to bring them to life? Number 12. Ben McMahon. Back in 2012, Ben McMahon was just a regular Australian teenager when his life changed forever. After a horrific car crash, he was left in a coma for over a week. His parents feared the worst, but when he finally woke up, something extraordinary happened. He started speaking fluently in Mandarin Chinese, a language he had only studied briefly in school. Even more baffling? He struggled to speak English at first, as if his brain had completely switched languages. Doctors were stunned. McMahon had never been fluent in Mandarin before, so how was this possible? Experts believe that the trauma to his brain may have unlocked a hidden linguistic ability, a phenomenon linked to neuroplasticity. Some scientists suggest that the accident activated parts of his subconscious memory, allowing him to access information he had absorbed but never fully mastered. Others believe it's related to foreign accent syndrome, where brain injuries cause dramatic language shifts. Rather than being afraid of his strange new ability, McMahon embraced it. He became a Mandarin tour guide and a TV host on Chinese language programs, and even studied in Shanghai. Number 11. The Lyman twins. Florence and Catherine Lyman, famously known as the Rain Man twins, didn't gain their abilities through a singular accident, but rather a rare neurological condition that turned their minds into living encyclopedias. Born prematurely in the 1950s, the twins were misdiagnosed throughout their childhood. They're inseparable, born with brains already tangled from oxygen loss at birth. But what seemed like a disability soon revealed itself as a superhuman gift, an uncanny ability to recall dates, events, and conversations with photographic precision. Days later, the twins start spitting out dates. Ask them what day June 15, 1942 fell on. Monday, they will respond in unison, with no hesitation. December 3rd, 1897, Friday. They nail everyone, stretching centuries back, like they've got a calendar hardwired into their heads. Their extraordinary minds came into the spotlight in 1996 when a radio host wrote an article about them. Soon, scientists began studying their abilities, and their story was featured in the 2008 documentary Twin Savants, Flo and Kay. Their memory functions like an unshakable time machine, allowing them to recount personal events and even historical facts down to the smallest details. They can tell you what they ate on a random day decades ago, or what song was playing on the radio on any given date. Despite facing challenges, including the loss of their caregiver and sister, Jane, in 2005, the twins have continued to live independently. Number 10. Lee Erseg. 2009 is a remarkable year in the life of this rugged farmer. Lee Erseg was an ordinary woman working on a farm in Colorado when a single moment changed her life forever. One day, she lost her footing and tumbled down a ravine, suffering a traumatic brain injury that wiped out all memories of her past, including who she was and the people she loved. But while she lost her identity, she gained something astonishing: an extraordinary mind, unlike anything doctors had seen before. Following her recovery, Lee developed a deep understanding of mathematics and physics, despite having no prior interest or expertise. She also began creating breathtaking works of art filled with complex patterns and vivid colors. Doctors diagnosed her with acquired savant syndrome, a rare condition where brain trauma unlocks dormant genius-level abilities. She also developed synesthesia, a phenomenon where senses become entangled. Numbers had colors, music had shapes, and emotions had textures. Scientists studied her case, marveling at how her injury rewired her brain into something almost superhuman. Yet despite her newfound abilities, Lee remained emotionally disconnected from her past life. She no longer recognized family members, and her personality had completely transformed. While the accident granted her extraordinary gifts, it also took something irreplaceable: her sense of self. Number 9. Alonzo Clemons. As a child, Alonzo Clemons suffered a traumatic brain injury that severely impaired his cognitive abilities. But how did it happen? Back in the 60s, little Alonzo Clemons, a curious toddler, was chasing a toy truck when he tripped, and his head crashed into a table's edge. Doctors believed he would never function normally, as the injury left him with significant learning difficulties. However, while his academic skills remained limited, something incredible emerged: an inherent and almost supernatural ability to sculpt. From an early age, Clemons began crafting highly detailed sculptures of animals with stunning accuracy, despite having never been formally trained. Given just a brief glance at an animal, he could recreate its precise anatomy and proportions using only his hands and simple tools. What made this even more astonishing was the speed. He could complete a perfect sculpture in minutes, relying entirely on his memory. Scientists studying Clemons' condition believe his injury led to savant syndrome, a rare phenomenon where brain damage unlocks hidden abilities. His visual memory and spatial intelligence became highly enhanced, allowing him to process three-dimensional structures with unmatched precision. While he struggled with everyday tasks, his artistic skills flourished beyond what most trained sculptors could achieve in a lifetime. Clemons' works have since been displayed in galleries worldwide, proving that even in adversity, the human brain has a remarkable way of adapting. Number 9. Alonzo Clemons. As a child, Alonzo Clemons suffered a traumatic brain injury that severely impaired his cognitive abilities. But how did it happen? Back in the 60s, little Alonzo Clemons, a curious toddler, was chasing a toy truck when he tripped, and his head crashed into a table's edge. Doctors believed he would never function normally, as the injury left him with significant learning difficulties. However, while his academic skills remained limited, something incredible emerged: an inherent and almost supernatural ability to sculpt. From an early age, Clemons began crafting highly detailed sculptures of animals with stunning accuracy, despite having never been formally trained. Given just a brief glance at an animal, he could recreate its precise anatomy and proportions using only his hands and simple tools. What made this even more astonishing was the speed. He could complete a perfect sculpture in minutes, relying entirely on his memory. Scientists studying Clemons' condition believe his injury led to savant syndrome, a rare phenomenon where brain damage unlocks hidden abilities. His visual memory and spatial intelligence became highly enhanced, allowing him to process three-dimensional structures with unmatched precision. While he struggled with everyday tasks, his artistic skills flourished beyond what most trained sculptors could achieve in a lifetime. Clemons' works have since been displayed in galleries worldwide, proving that even in adversity, the human brain has a remarkable way of adapting. Number 8. Daniel Tammet.
I'm a savant, or more precisely, a high-functioning autistic savant. It's a rare condition.
At the age of 3, a violent epileptic seizure rewired Daniel Tammet's brain in a way no one could have imagined. From that moment, numbers were no longer just symbols. They became colors, shapes, and textures in his mind.
When I see a number, I see a shape. It has a meaning. Every number is different and beautiful and poetic. And when you put them together, like in pi, it's just pure poetry.
He could feel them, see them swirl in vast landscapes, and intuitively grasp complex equations in ways that defy logic. Unlike others with mathematical genius, Tammet doesn't just compute numbers, he feels them. He experiences each digit has a unique shape, texture, and color. This rare condition, known as synesthesia, allows him to visualize equations in a way no ordinary person can. His mathematical prowess is nearly superhuman. He once memorized and recited pi to 22,514th decimal places, a feat that took over 5 hours. But his abilities don't stop at numbers. Tammet is also a linguistic prodigy, fluent in more than 7 languages, including Icelandic, which he learned in just 1 week.
Isländsk för mig så farlig och jag fett att lära av 7 dagar.
Even more incredibly, he has been working on developing a language of his own. Unlike many savants, Tammet can describe how his mind works, offering scientists a rare glimpse into the mysteries of human cognition. His case has led researchers to believe that his epilepsy may have triggered a unique form of acquired savant syndrome, where brain trauma unlocks hidden genius. Today, Tammet is a best-selling author and public speaker, using his incredible mind to bridge the gap between savant intelligence and the everyday human experience. His story raises a fascinating question. How many hidden abilities might lie dormant within the rest of us, waiting to be unlocked? Number 7. Gilles Trehin. Imagine a vast, elaborate metropolis, a city so detailed that it has its own population count, geography, street layouts, and architecture. Now, imagine that this city exists entirely in the mind of one man. This is the world of Gilles Trehin, an autistic savant whose mind has meticulously constructed a fictional city called Eadweard, not to be confused with the real French Antarctic outpost, Dumont d'Urville, from which it takes its name. With astonishing precision, Trehin has spent decades developing and illustrating his imaginary city, capturing streets, plazas, bridges, churches, promenades, airports, skylines, and urban layouts in breathtaking detail. Trehin, born in 1972, exhibited extraordinary artistic and mathematical abilities from a young age. At just 5 years old, he showed remarkable talent in mental math and music, but his true passion became architecture and urban planning. By the age of 12, he had already conceptualized Eadweard, initially constructing parts of it with Lego bricks. As his imagination and skills evolved, he moved to sketching, bringing his city to life in a series of highly detailed drawings. Unlike typical imaginary worlds, Eadweard isn't a fantasy realm. It follows the laws of real-world urban development, with logical infrastructure, historical influences, and an evolving population. Trehin has even written a book documenting its history and architecture, offering a peek into the mind of a true visionary. While Eadweard may not exist in reality, in Trehin's mind, and through his sketches, it's as real as any city on Earth. Number 6. Nigel Ackland. One moment, Nigel Ackland was a skilled metalworker. The next, a devastating industrial accident crushed his arm, setting him on a painful path of surgeries, infections, and ultimately, amputation. For most, this would have marked the end of their independence, but for Nigel, it was the beginning of something extraordinary. Nigel was living an ordinary life until a tragic workplace accident changed everything. His arm was crushed in an industrial incident, leading to a painful 6-month ordeal of surgeries and complications before doctors ultimately amputated the limb. But instead of accepting his limitations, Nigel became a real-life cyborg. He was fitted with the Bebionic 3, one of the world's most advanced prosthetic arms, which responds directly to the electrical signals in his muscles. Unlike traditional prosthetics, this bionic limb is fully articulated, allowing Nigel to perform incredibly complex movements, like pouring a drink, typing, and even cracking eggs with precision. The arm provides enhanced grip strength, making him significantly stronger than an average person. The transformation was not just physical, but also emotional. Nigel went from struggling with daily tasks to demonstrating superhuman-like control over his artificial limb. His bionic arm is a glance into the future, where human limitations could be eliminated through technology. His story raises a fascinating question. Could prosthetic technology eventually surpass human biology, giving people true superpowers? Number 5. Jedediah Buxton. Imagine a man so obsessed with numbers that he viewed the world through calculations. That was Jedediah Buxton, a farm laborer from England who, despite never learning to read or write, could solve incredibly complex mathematical problems entirely in his head. Born into a humble family, he had no formal education, yet he could multiply, divide, and calculate big numbers effortlessly, a true human calculator before the invention of computers. Buxton's mind was wired for numbers. He could walk across an entire field and calculate its precise area in various measurements, an ability unheard of at the time. His memory was so powerful that he could pause a calculation for weeks or even months and resume without missing a beat. While others marveled at literature, history, or art, Buxton's world revolved around numbers, so much so that he often ignored everything else around him. His incredible talent even caught the attention of King George II, who invited him to court to demonstrate his mental abilities. However, despite his astonishing mathematical gifts, Buxton struggled in all other areas of life, unable to retain general knowledge or even recall daily events. Number 4. Rory Curtis. A horrific 6-car pileup in England shattered Rory Curtis's life in an instant. Curtis was a promising young footballer with dreams of playing professionally. But in 2012, at just 22 years old, his life took a drastic turn when he was involved in this horrific 6-car pileup. The accident left him with a severe brain injury and in a coma for 6 days. When he finally woke up, he was confused. But what happened next shocked everyone. Curtis started speaking fluent French, even though he had only studied it briefly in school years earlier. Not only that, but he also believed he was actor Matthew McConaughey, an unusual delusion linked to memory distortion from brain trauma. Doctors were baffled, but neurologists suggest that his brain reorganized itself during recovery, accessing a deeply buried language he hadn't used in years. This rare phenomenon, known as foreign language syndrome, occurs when brain trauma activates latent linguistic abilities stored in the subconscious. To Curtis, it felt natural, like he had been fluent all along. He later recovered his full English-speaking ability, but didn't retain his newfound French skills. Though his football career never fully resumed, he pursued a career as a barber, embracing his second chance at life. His story is one of the most fascinating cases of the brain's mysterious ability to unlock hidden talents after trauma. Number 3. James Wannerton. Imagine tasting chocolate every time you hear the word Monday or feeling the flavor of bacon when someone says your name. That's the reality for James Wannerton, a British man who experiences a literal taste for words. But his ability didn't emerge from birth. It appeared after a childhood concussion. At first, James thought everyone experienced words this way. It wasn't until adulthood that he discovered his condition had a name: lexical gustatory synesthesia. This rare neurological phenomenon happens when the areas of the brain responsible for processing words known as Wernicke's area and taste, referred to as the gustatory cortex, become cross-wired. As a result, his brain doesn't just interpret language as sound, it translates it into flavors, sometimes pleasant, sometimes awful. For James, the London Underground map is a menu. Each station name brings a specific taste. For example, Mornington Crescent tastes like bacon, while Piccadilly Circus reminds him of stale custard. Even people's names and everyday conversations trigger a flood of different flavors. While his ability might sound like a superpower, it's not always fun. Some words trigger repulsive tastes, making them hard to hear. Yet, James has embraced his condition, even working with neuroscientists to better understand how the brain processes language and sensation. Number 2. Ma Xiangang. Most people fear electricity, for good reason. A strong electric shock can be fatal. But for Ma Xiangang, an ordinary Chinese man, a brush with live wires led to a bizarre discovery. He was immune to electric shocks. The incident happened when Ma was fixing his TV antenna. While adjusting the wires, he accidentally grabbed a live 220-volt cable, a jolt that should have sent him flying or caused severe burns. But to his surprise, he felt nothing. Instead of recoiling in fear, Ma experimented further, touching the wires again and again, realizing he could endure direct electric currents with no pain or visible injury. Scientists and doctors who examined him were baffled. One theory suggests that Ma's skin and nervous system have an unusually high electrical resistance, preventing the current from interfering with his vital organs. Another theory is that his nerve endings don't respond to electric stimulation like a typical human's, making him immune to electric shock pain. Instead of avoiding electricity, Ma embraced his ability, often demonstrating his superpower by holding live wires with his bare hands, and even lighting up bulbs by merely touching them. While most of us would be fried by such voltage, Ma continues to defy science, earning him the nickname, the Human Insulator. Number 1. Leslie Lemke. It's the dead of night when May Lemke wakes to something surreal, her adopted son Leslie flawlessly playing the piano. The shock is immense because Leslie had never taken a piano lesson in his life. Leslie Lemke was born prematurely in 1952 with severe brain damage, cerebral palsy, and glaucoma, leaving him blind. Doctors doubted he would ever function independently. Adopted by May Lemke, a devoted nurse, Leslie struggled to develop motor skills and didn't even speak until he was in his teens. Then, something miraculous happened. At age 16, May woke up one night to the sound of Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1 being played flawlessly in their home. She was stunned. Leslie had never had a piano lesson in his life. He had heard the piece earlier that day on television and was playing it back note for note with perfect technique. From that moment on, Leslie's gift became undeniable. He could listen to any piece of music once and instantly play it back with astonishing accuracy. His talent gained widespread recognition, leading to performances worldwide. Actor Dustin Hoffman was so moved by Leslie's ability that he used him as inspiration for his role in Rain Man. Despite having an IQ of just 58, Leslie possesses a photographic memory for music, crafting original compositions and improvising lyrics on the spot. Some call it a gift, others a curse. These 20 people woke up with abilities that defy logic, turning them into real-life superheroes. Could we all have hidden powers waiting to be unlocked? Or are these rare events a glimpse into something beyond science? Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.